Hey, what's up, guys? We're here with Michael Shainblum joining us from the Bay Area. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on again. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's your second time on the podcast. I've seen you've been updating a lot of videos to YouTube. Your channel has grown pretty significantly. Why don't you fill us in on why you actually decided to start a YouTube channel for your landscape and nature photography?
Yeah, for sure. Um, why did I start? So I actually started my YouTube channel a long time ago, but in its early conception, I guess it was mostly for a few tutorials and some like you time lapse videos and things like that. Yeah, I didn't take it very seriously until about, I'd say, like 2019 or so. And I started kind of getting more into the vlogging side of it, really like showing my face on camera and filming the behind the scenes of the adventures. And the reason I wanted to do that is because, I was feeling like I I wanted to tell stories through the artwork and through the photographs. And I was finding that on social media, it was a little tougher to get people to really sit and absorb an image. Instagram probably being the worst culprit for that is like people would tell me, oh, is it, I stopped scrolling to check on your image. Your image caught my eye, so I stopped scrolling. And it's like I think that's an interesting statement. Like that's kind of where we are through social media and photography is like I stopped for like a second because your image caught my eye. It's like, well, we really should be viewing these photographs and these artworks for longer. And I was like, well, it'd be fun to show everything that goes into taking a photograph, right? Like all of the adventure, the the success, but not only the success, also the challenges and the difficulties. And then, I can put the image on the screen, talk about my thought process, why I took the photograph, what the ideas are. And I find that people are more willing to listen if it's in a video than they would be to read a description that's on, let's say, Instagram or something like that. So it's been a really fun way to just kind of like put out all my thoughts on photography, and I've been really appreciative of everyone who's kind of like subscribed and joined. And I think I've it started out a little rocky like I wasn't, I'm still figuring stuff out, but I feel like every year I've kind of gotten a little bit better at the whole being on camera thing and understanding what type of personality I want to put out there. I think there was like a little bit in the beginning where I'm trying to maybe put on a bit of a presenter voice or something. And then I think a few friends were just like, just be yourself, just do you. And um, yeah, it's worked out. So, it's worked out for the last few years, just kind of doing that.
Besides the voice thing that you kind of alluded to, and maybe I think the temptation is there when you first start one to be somebody that you're not, and kind of because you watch other videos and maybe those have influence on what you think a video might need to be. What were some of the other challenges that, let's say, a photographer who wants to start a YouTube channel may run into that you can share where they kind of leap over that learning phase?
Yeah, certainly the whole like putting on a presenter voice and doing something because we see that a lot of the most popular channels and things they're very quick, they're very in your face, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It catches people's attention, but you don't need to necessarily do that. Like if you're just your own genuine self, I think people can resonate with that. Um, Challenges, I'd say the biggest challenge for any photographer who wanted to do videos is the fact that you're essentially going into another craft that is very tough to do. There's a lot of elements that, as photographers, like you can translate similar things from photography into video, like composition, lighting, but then you're taking into account audio, which is its own animal, just figuring out good audio, how to edit the audio, how to mix with music, video editing. So there's a lot of learning to be done from if you're going from like the photography side to the video side. I think that if somebody wanted to start, like if a landscape photographer wanted to start a channel, what what maybe is the easiest thing to do to start is to just do some nice cell phone videos of like behind the scenes clips of where you're at. You can do whole videos that are just shot on your iPhone or your Samsung or whatever phone you have. I mean, the quality is great and the audio is pretty decent in those devices. So no one needs to do what we do necessarily. Like you don't need to put together videos with tons of music and editing and slideshows and effects and titles. Like you don't have to do all that. Certainly, it helps when you are growing and building a style to get into that skill set because it will appeal to more people, I think, when the production quality is higher. But if somebody just wanted to start video, I think that's the place to start. Just like filming behind the scenes clips on their phone, you know, getting used to talking into the phone, and yeah, that's a good way to do it, I think.
I think that's great advice because it's always important to remember when you're starting something new like that, your first video is probably going to be pretty bad. And just knowing that going in, I mean, if you relate it back to photography, my first photos were pretty bad. My first videos were pretty bad. My first podcasts were pretty bad. So when you kind of know that going in and you kind of take the mindset of, maybe I could just learn along the process and just get 1% better every single time that I make a video. I think that's the right mindset to go into it. And one of the traps that I feel like a lot of photographers, when they think about starting a YouTube channel or starting anything new, really is that immediate success. And it takes several pieces of content, videos to kind of get the ball rolling and get people used to your channel. Did you go through that at all when you were starting out?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it was, you over time you grow the more you experience and the more you work you put into anything, right? Whether it's video or photo or cooking or like fill in the blank, the more experience you have and the more you're investing into that craft, the better you're going to be at that thing, right? I mean, of course, there are people with natural talent for one thing or the other. Like for example, I tried playing guitar. I'm not really a musician. I realize that's not what I'm naturally good at. I tried really hard. I tried for like 2 or 3 years and I could never really figure it out. And I'm sure if I put in another 5 to 10 years, I could probably figure it out. But naturally for me, that just wasn't my thing. Like my thing is visual. Like if anything visual art wise, I found that I could pick up a little quicker than some of the other things I've tried, hobby wise or whatever. But yeah, certainly with the videos, like I look at back at what I was doing in 2019, and even though I did have some video experience, I wasn't all that competent in front of the camera. Like I would start filming myself and realize I don't know what to say, and then I would start thinking about things. But then when I'd say the things to the camera, they would come out not very natural. Um, my audio never, like, it didn't sound that great back then because I didn't really know what I was doing with the mixing. The storytelling aspect, like I would get all this footage from a shoot and realize I don't entirely know what this video is about even, and that took a while just to kind of learn. But yeah, over time I've just sort of figured it out, and like I'm just way faster at editing these videos. I can film them easier. I can just sort of press record on the camera and just start naturally talking about what I'm doing, and get some interesting audio because it's genuine. It's the genuine reaction I'm having to being in a place, and talking about the process of photography, instead of before, like maybe back in 2019 or something, I would turn the camera on and be like, uh, and not really, I would just ramble about stuff that didn't even matter, when in reality, it's kind of like you just need to forget the camera's there and just do what you would normally do, and talk as if you're talking to a friend or somebody. Hey, what is this experience like? Hey, what am I feeling right now? Hey, why is this photograph so difficult to take? Like, what are the challenges that I'm encountering right now? And then it ends up coming out pretty interesting because it's almost a little bit candid in a sense. I mean, obviously the camera's there, so it's not, but it feels that way when you kind of just forget the camera's there and just talk into it. So yeah, but you get better over time. You get better. Like, I look back and even stuff from maybe 2020, I look at, 3 or 4 years ago, like some things I could have improved on in certain videos, and some things that I would do differently if it was now. So, and of course the same goes with photography too. Like, you just start growing. So
Yeah. Consider this weird, and I know this is weird on my end. One of the ways that I kind of got better at that of talking to a camera, especially with tutorials, selling courses or just filming tutorials on how to do something, I actually created like a make-believe person and
mm,
talk directly like to that person, all the way down to where they live. Like, they have a name, where they live, their age, what their interests are, and I like just pretend that I'm like talking to them every single time I do a tutorial or video and teach them. And number one, I think that helps you get a little bit more comfortable talking to the camera because you're relating it to like an imaginary person. And number two, you make it much more personal in the experience. You know what I'm saying?
no, that's a good way to do it. I'm not certain if I've made an entirely new human that I'm
Look,
talking
not
to on
everybody
camera.
has a Drew that they talk to. Not everybody has a Drew.
If it works, it works. If it works, it works. Yeah, I think just like getting past the fact that you're talking into a lens, like it's a
Yeah.
camera. You have to remember that if your intention of putting this out on the internet is to reach other real human beings, you
Mhm.
have to look past the lens and realize that you're actually, at the end of this, talking to humans. So the camera is just the transportation device to talk to other people, like-minded folks who have similar interests. So yeah, it's just a bit of it's just like a weird thing to do at first, and it's a bit of kind of like a barrier, I think, but you get past it with experience, I'd say.
You mentioned storytelling in your videos. How important is that, do you feel, to the success of the experience, not only for the resulting photos, but also the experience that you're interacting with your viewers on when you're making that, and the success of the overall video?
Yeah, I'd say it's it's pretty important to have a story, um, which I've found is not the hardest thing to do with photography, because every adventure that we have and every experience that we have does it has some sort of story. Um, I mean, some are more boring than others, I guess. Like, if you just went to the park and you didn't see anything and you were like, all right, whatever, I'm gonna go home. I guess that's not a very compelling story. But I feel like most photo adventures have some kind of story. Sometimes with like making videos, and I don't do this that often, but there have been a few videos where I've thought of the story before I've shot it. Like, okay, I know what this video I want it to be about. Like, maybe I got a new lens and this adventure is about me trying this new lens or something like that. Or maybe there's like something I want to talk about within settings or within like a specific technique. But I found most of the time, like, I just go film a bunch of stuff And then as I'm like sitting there editing, I'm like, oh, that was the meaning of this trip, or that was the meaning of this experience, or that was the thing that there's always some sort of theme, something that stands out. Like, for example, the last videos I did were all in Ireland. And for none of those videos I had any clue what the story was supposed to be. Like, I just went out and filmed a bunch of stuff. But I realized after looking back at the footage, like the last one I put out, I found myself like really using the wide angle lens, and the conditions were so challenging because of the wind, and I was like, well, this is perfect. This is how to get, you know, compelling photography through really difficult, challenging weather. So that ended up being that video. And then, there was other situations where I went out like 4 or 5 times and the waves were massive, like giant, giant storms. And I shot it all on my telephoto lens. So I was like, oh, okay, great. Even though these were shot over 4 or 5 different days, with things in between, I'm going to combine all of that and make a whole video on telephoto wave photography, because I feel like that's a great theme, and it fits into a story. So even though some of what I shot in the last video I put out, like I shot those on over the course of 3 days, and there was like gaps in between where I'm also shooting the telephoto wave stuff, I'm going to separate those two into two different stories, because I feel like those are the themes that work for that. And I think if it was maybe 2019 or 2020, I might not have that storytelling ability down. I might have just done it all chronological regardless. And then I would have ended up with maybe like 3 or 4 videos that all kind of have similar stuff in them. Like there's almost no reason for 4 of them to exist. Whereas now I kind of have done this long enough to where I'm able to figure out which stories need to be told and how they need to, work.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Now, when you're going out, and the reason I ask this is I hear it from a lot of photographers. Something that I know they've made changes in how they go out and create videos and also create photos at the same time. When you go out and you have a dedicated day to film, you have a dedicated day for photography. How are you staying focused on one or the other while doing both at the same time?
Yeah, I'd say I don't have one that's dedicated for video, one that's dedicated for photo. I'd say that um, a good I'd say 80% of my photo shoots that I do are just photo shoots. I don't even pull out the video camera. I don't bring the vlogging gear. I have no intention of doing any video at all. And that allows me to just be in the moment with photography, take pictures, and not think about anything else. Because when you do add the video equipment, the experience changes very fast, because you now have to set up multiple cameras. You have to film B-roll of yourself hiking and doing all this stuff and talking into the camera, which does take away a bit of the personal experience of being in a location. So I found that they're like, I'd say 80 to 90% of my shoots are just photo. And then I have the other percent, which I'm dedicating to filming a ton of video. And in those instances where I'm filming a ton of video, it's basically like a whole day thing. And, where somebody might say, oh, okay, I just want to do like an hour or two sunset shoot. Like if I'm filming a video, then that needs to be like a 5 to 6 hour shoot, because of all the extra stuff, the talking points, the B-roll, the hiking. There's just so much more to consider. So yeah, that's kind of how I break it down. So a lot of the times in my videos, I'll have these moments where I'm just like a good example is I did one in Utah where it was like this big landscape photography kind of tutorial vlog. And there's moments in the video where I'm like, and then for a few days I wandered with my friends and here's what I captured. And it's like, that's because I'm not going to film every day. It's so tiresome. And I feel like doing that much, extra video, it's not going to make the video any better. And it's also going to distract me from taking pictures. So I found that there does need to be a balance there. I did one Yosemite video that was like 15, 20 minutes long, but I was in Yosemite for like a week. I just filmed, I think I filmed like 3 or 4 of the outings, but that's out of like so many more outings that I did just enjoying and taking pictures. So I think that sometimes when people see these vlogs, they assume that people are only filming video when they go take pictures, but I don't think that's the case. Um, the last thing I'll say on this, just because I feel like I'm rambling at this point, the last thing I'll say on the video photo thing is I've had a lot of people say, well, doesn't it distract from taking pictures? Don't you feel
Mm.
like you're taking worse pictures because you're doing video? There have been instances in the past where I've found that to be the case, where I tried to film too much video or I tried to do this and that, and either the video sucked or the images sucked. And immediately when I realized that was happening, I stopped. And I was like, basically, my rule of thumb is if there's any idea at all that I don't have time to film a video, or that if I pull out a video camera, I'm going to miss a moment through my photography, or I'm not going to be able to be as creative with my photography, I stop. I won't do any video regardless of how epic the conditions are, because at the end of the day, I can always, if I really want to put those images into the video, I can just tell people the conditions were amazing and I felt like I was rushed. So I focused on my photography. Here's what I shot. And then I can still give the ideas of, what it was like to take those pictures. But I'm not going to sacrifice my photography to get a YouTube video. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I think a good rule of thumb, and this kind of piggybacks on what you were saying, is like if you're taking photos and then you think, could I film what I'm doing right now? And your instant reaction is like, it wouldn't make it any more fun than it already is, or it would make it less fun, then you probably shouldn't do it. Because we're photographers in the first place, and that's
Yeah.
what we do. And it's like if it's not an immediate yes, it's a no, right? And you shouldn't really do it because it'll water down your experience taking images, and that's what we do.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, you just don't want to sacrifice, and that's something that also you do learn over time, is like time management, budgeting your time a bit better. Like I've become pretty good at multitasking. Like I can set up, a camera to film myself and do that, and then get photos, without sacrificing one or the other. Whereas maybe a few years ago, that would have been very impossible to do. So again, it's that's something that just comes with experience and time too. It's just like learning how to budget those things.
Are we reaching a point in like this kind of age that we're living through where there's so much video taking over that photographers should be adding it to kind of their repertoire of something that they need to improve on or work on or even take up?
Maybe commercially,
In what way?
I feel like it seems more difficult now than ever to do commercial photography, in the sense of like commercial landscape and travel and scenic. I mean, most of the time, if somebody's hiring for that type of project, it is video. It's less photo. Um, it's not quite as many commissioned landscape photography projects. I think that photography is always going to stand. Like, photography is always going to be its own craft, and especially seeing images. There's nothing better than seeing a big photograph printed on the wall, right? I don't think video can take that over. I mean, obviously you can get a screen and put a video on the wall, but it's not the same thing as getting a photograph printed on beautiful paper that you chose, and it's a different experience, I think. But Certainly on social media, it seems like video is taking over, and if we the evidence for that would be platforms really trying to push, these short form videos. Like you've got YouTube shorts and Instagram reels that are essentially trying to mimic what TikTok did. And a lot of photographers on social media rather than posting images, are posting videos that have images in them, or it's a lot of like behind the scenes of them, shooting and giving tips for that or something like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it is a different thing, um, than the photography side of it. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough to say. I would say that video is definitely on the rise when it comes to social media and things like that. You know, I think that's undeniable.
Yeah, and commercially, you make a good point because if I think back to talks that I've had with clients, the video stuff is always on the table. Looking back to some of the stuff, first stuff that I booked a while back was with like just a tourism board for Tennessee, and they did want photos, but their main thing that they wanted was like just a 1 minute long video of a trip, canoeing down this river that they were kind of featuring in this bid that they were doing on. And that's kind of when I first started to think about, maybe it's time to get pretty serious about this,
Yeah.
and kind of get really good at video and study it and learn it. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this too. I think that going through that process and learning video made me in turn a better photographer because I saw things just slightly different.
Yeah, I would say so. It's I mean, definitely it's a good skill set to have regardless. Like I've been doing video I've been dabbling in video kind of since I started photography. I've sort of done both together. Um, just because it was something I was really interested in. Mm, But yeah, I mean, video also now is more accessible than it's ever been. Every camera that we own shoots video. You could shoot all your video on your phone and shoot it in 4K,
Yep.
ProRes, high quality. So I don't think there's really any reason not to do some video or to dabble in it if you're a photographer. Unless it's just, you're not interested and it doesn't matter to you, then you certainly don't have to. But I think from like a commercial standpoint or a lot of professional photographers, it's a good thing to have under, in your skill set, I would say. Um, Compositionally, I would agree with that because even though composition is something that is shared between photo and video, there are elements of composition through video that we don't think about as photographers. Like a lot of the times, making something cinematic. Um, I found that through video, like filming video, I've been able to. I don't know. Maybe it's taught me a little bit about minimalism.
Hmm.
It's also taught me about, rather than seeing exactly what's in front of me, also sort of anticipating what's next. Because with video, filming, you're kind of filming into the future almost. Whereas with photography, it's easy to just get caught up in that one thing that's happening in that one moment. Whereas, with video, you are kind of anticipating that next thing. I think a lot of that is also time lapse too, because I do a lot
Yeah.
of time lapse photography, and you really have to anticipate the future when it
Yeah.
comes to filming time lapses. But yeah, I would say learning, understanding composition within video does help with photography, and vice versa. I've seen a lot of photographers come into video and really do well with the composition and the lighting because they're so used to it through doing photography. So I think both are transferable.
Yeah, definitely. It's one I was thinking about this while you were answering. One thing that I feel like has kind of made me a better photographer through video is the audio portion. Because, and it's kind of like what you were saying with anticipation, if I'm sitting there doing video, I'm constantly thinking about what it sounds like and what that audio is like for the viewer. And it sometimes has triggered like me to look in a certain direction because you have this background noise or something going on. And it led to maybe not like this big grand scene, but it's led to like a very minimal photo of like some leaves that were light was hitting just right, or a tree that
Hmm.
I never would have turned around and noticed if I hadn't been focused on the audio part.
Interesting. I've never thought about that side of it. I could see it though, for sure. Like just being really in tune with every little thing that's happening because you have to worry about more than the visuals. Yeah, that's interesting. Hmm.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you this. You know, I know we've gone out to shoot Death Valley together, and I was before we jumped on, I was looking at your website, noticing that you had a Death Valley workshop. Why dive into the workshop game and kind of look at that as a means of income for your photography, and also using it as an experience for people who want to come shoot with you?
Well, I've never done workshops like full time, like doing I have friends that do like some 20 workshops a year or something like that. I've never done that. I've always done a few a year. It's kind of like do them in between other stuff. But the reason I started them was because I think it was a combination of like a lot of people were asking for them. They were like,
Hmm.
"Oh, do a workshop," So I was like, "Okay, I'll do a workshop." But also, I really enjoy teaching as well. I find that that's a passion of mine, and it's just so rewarding when you can, share an experience with somebody else, and you sort of like, maybe they were struggling with something, and then something finally clicks, and you see that moment where it's all coming together, and yeah, it's just fun. I enjoy it from that aspect. I mean, financially, obviously, it's for a landscape photographer, it's a great way to earn a living because you control it, right? You're controlling these trips, you're scheduling them out, you're relying on your own audience and not necessarily just waiting for clients to come to you with projects. So it's a more, I think it's a little bit more um, like a controllable way to earn a living if that's somebody's interest. Like I would say if anyone ever wanted to get into workshops, they just have to really be passionate about the teaching side. I don't just do it because it's what photographers do. Do it because you enjoy it, because you like teaching and you want to share with people. And if you don't like to do that stuff, there's other avenues to earn a living as a photographer. You don't have to teach workshops, but yeah, definitely if only if it's something you feel like you would be passionate about.
Yeah. And those people that you know who do them full time, did you lean on them to kind of bridge the gap on that learning curve of actually scheduling those and setting up? Because a lot of people who don't do them don't really see that part of the scheduling, the certifications, the permits that you have to get.
Yeah, the permits are, well, depending on how many places you need to go shoot and what permits are required, it can
Mm.
be a little annoying. Getting a permit isn't that bad though. Yeah, logistically, like I've had a lot of help from friends, just working with them. Um, yeah, that's probably the thing I'm the worst at is the logistics side of a workshop. Like, booking. I just hate booking things, even for my
Sure.
own personal trips. I hate flights and booking hotels and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I think my skill set is better with the teaching side of it, like the creative and technical teaching, and really bringing people out to places. And I'd say, like, logistically for locations, that side of it's more fun for me. I'm like, I know where the light is going to be here and
Yeah.
there, and I can give people, all these compositions. It's the like hotels and travel and accommodation that I'm like, ugh, this. Um, yeah, it's just a necessary thing though. Like, you know, you just got to do it if you're going to do workshops. But yeah, that's one of the reasons actually I've been I've been a little slow to put together my 2024 workshop, actually open them up because logistics are just like my least favorite thing.
That's that's fair. I mean, if you think about it, when you're setting it up, you kind of have to decide, are you going to go the route of letting people kind of choose where they want to stay? Like maybe this is the suggested place that you stay and they can book there if they want. Here's some other options, different budgets. Or is everything provided in the workshop? And obviously, price differs on those pretty significantly. And when you were creating, did you have to learn how to market those, and kind of go the business route and learn how to actually market them to people who are doing workshops?
um, the only marketing I've ever done for workshops is just tell people they exist.
Okay.
Um, I made sure, like, if I'm going to do a workshop somewhere, that it's something that people are already kind of asking for.
Mm,
So I've gauged, like people email me being like, Oregon Coast,
yeah.
Death Valley, Dolomites, places like that, Faroe Islands. So I've made sure it's a place that, like, it's usually a place that I've already photographed pretty well. So I know all the location, or I know a decent amount of the locations. I have a portfolio there, so people are, maybe wanting to go to that place and see what they can capture there. Um, but yeah, marketing wise, like for myself, no, I haven't had to do anything crazy marketing wise. It's just letting people know the workshops are there. Um, Post pictures of what they're going to see, talk about what they're going to learn. I don't do anything else from there. And um, I haven't gone through like any crazy marketing SEO pitches either because um, I want to make sure that if somebody joins a workshop, that there's somebody who, maybe already watches the YouTube channel or has like looked at my work for a while. So
You want them to know what's involved.
yeah, and they already kind of maybe know me as a
Yeah.
person too. I don't necessarily want to attract people who like don't know my work because I feel like maybe that sets a different expectation. Like maybe they'll have a different expectation from what the workshop actually is. And, my main purpose here, like obviously, if somebody joins a workshop, they're going to get cool pictures, probably. More
Yep.
than likely, they're going to get pretty cool pictures and, try and get them best conditions that we can within reason. But really the main purpose for me teaching a workshop isn't necessarily to get people epic pictures. That's just something that will probably happen through the workshop. The main purpose is teaching. I want
Yeah.
to teach people how to take pictures. I want to teach people how to see things differently, how to express their own creativity, and take these things that they've learned on a workshop or a tour and apply it to their own photography when they're back at home or they want to do another trip. I'm not necessarily just like a photo guide.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just I want to make sure that I set up that expectation that, I'm really there to teach the creative side of photography and teach the skill sets necessary to get out there and be a photographer, you know?
What do you love about teaching photography so much?
Just sharing what I know with other people and seeing, how I can, improve what they're doing or help them to see things a little bit differently. And just the best part is just the joy that people get being out there photographing, and you get to share it with these people, and share that experience. That's the thing about teaching that I find to be more rewarding than some of the other, things we do as photographers. Like if you do a commercial shoot or something, it's a little different when you're out there with people and you kind of see them, click the shutter and then they look at the picture and have this moment of awe, it's
Yeah,
fun.
definitely.
It's really
Yeah,
fun.
I think with like when digital cameras started to get pretty big. And I'm not trying to like say that I'm this antique photographer because when I was getting into photography, it was like digital cameras were already around, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm 36, I'm not that old. So when you have this dawn of digital cameras and the accessibility and how easy they are to use, um, I think that's when teaching really got started as a means for photographers to kind of use in their business, and also use it as a way to teach not only that but like the reach that we have on the internet and our ability to inspire people that way too.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely the influx of people teaching workshops it's gone way higher with digital photography, but also with social media,
Yeah,
because then, a photographer will see somebody else market a workshop and then say, well, you know what, I can do that too. And then they
yeah,
market a work, it's just naturally you're going to have a lot more people teaching. I mean, there was a lot of people teaching photography back just with film too. I just think a
sure.
lot of people weren't really seeing it quite as much. Like, it's not something you're seeing constantly, especially not in our industry, and with how accessible things are with social media now. Um, yeah, it'd be interesting to just like teach an all film photography class back then. And
That would
yeah,
be
I don't know.
wild.
Yeah, right? It'd be really interesting. Different challenges for sure. Different challenges
Absolutely.
than what we have to deal with now, I'd say.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
I do a new theme, a new repeating theme on the podcast now. It's called Repeat After Me. So I say a statement and I don't finish it. Then you repeat the statement and finish it in your own words, okay?
I'm gonna be terrible at this, but sure.
Okay. Well, we're off to a great start then.
Yeah.
Um, Photography is more enjoyable if.
You're having fun, right?
That's
Is that a good one?
yeah.
All
Yeah, I
right.
mean
Hey,
that's pretty good. I mean,
just have fun. Photography's
ph-
fun. It's supposed to be fun. I mean, unless you're dealing with like ice icy weather and it's like before sunrise and it's like 70-mile-per-hour winds. Then it's like less fun. It's more fun when you get back and you're like, well, at least I dealt with
yeah.
that experience. But most of the time it should be fun.
They make for great stories though. Those are the best stories when you brave that. Like if you get in the car and you can't feel your hands anymore because you've been like photographed, not because you have like blood clots in your arms or anything, but like because of the cold weather, and you can't feel your hands and like your nose is cold and you've got to take off all your gear. I think that's a pretty fun day to have,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I guess. Yeah, fun looking back on it.
Fun looking back on it. There we go. Photographers can get better by what?
Taking pictures
More or less?
more.
You think? Okay. Man, you are
Uh,
really bad at this game.
photographer. Well, okay, sorry. Say it again. Photographers can get better
Photographers can get better by.
taking more pictures.
Okay, there we go.
Well, taking pictures works though too.
Yeah.
Take pictures. Experience.
Okay. More
More
experience than not.
get out there, take more pictures, edit more pictures, have more experiences with photography. That's better.
A photographer should start a YouTube channel because.
Photographer should start a YouTube channel because I almost want to replace the because with if.
Okay,
You know
do
what I
it.
mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't think having a YouTube channel is a great idea for a lot of photographers.
Why?
It's just so much work.
Yeah.
It's so much work. And if that's not a photographer's natural like interest, like they don't want to make videos, like we do, then I don't think anyone should feel pressured to do that, because most photographers don't have a YouTube channel and are doing just fine doing what they're doing, right?
Hmm.
Still doing workshops, still selling prints, still doing all the things that, it's really just, I think that if somebody was going to start a YouTube channel, they should do it if they want to get into filmmaking. They want to film their experiences. They want to tell stories through video, through that medium. And if somebody has no interest in that at all, then there should be no pressure to do so at all. Just because I feel like you're basically giving yourself a ton of extra work that you're not going to have fun doing. And that's the last thing you want to do.
Definitely. You started pretty shaky on that game, but I feel like that last answer was really strong.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I told you
He's
I would be bad at it.
that you did give me a warning. He's Michael Shainblum. Michael, tell us where people can find you, sign up for your workshops, and subscribe to your YouTube channel.
Yeah, yeah. My website, shainblumPhoto.com. I've got like workshops and videos and all sorts of stuff to check out there. And then the YouTube channel, if you just type in my name, I should pop up on good old YouTube or Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. All the is Twitter even a thing? X,
It's
I
it's
guess is what it's
X
called
now.
now.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you type my name into a place, chances are I'll show up if you wanna say hi. But yeah, you can find everything on my website too.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us, sharing your thoughts. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, we'll have to chat again soon.